Lucas Hayes stood in the doorway of his daughter's bedroom, watching a stranger braid her hair, with the kind of gentle patience he'd forgotten existed. His hands were still covered in engine grease from the broken tractor outside. The bills were stacked on the kitchen counter. His son hadn't smiled in weeks. And this woman, Aria, had shown up 3 days ago with nothing but a duffel bag and eyes that looked like they'd seen the end of something. He didn't know her story yet, but watching his little girl laugh for the first time since her mother walked out, Lucas felt something dangerous stir in his chest. Hope. And hope, he'd learned, always came with a price. If you want to see how this broken family finds its way back to something real, stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with the city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The farm looked worse in the morning light. Lucas stood at the edge of the porch, coffee mug in hand, surveying the damage another night had brought. The fence along the north pasture had 3 more posts leaning at angles that would have made his grandfather roll over. The chicken coop door hung crooked on one hinge. Somewhere past the barn, the irrigation pump was making a sound like a dying animal. He took a long drink of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. 32 years old, and he felt 50. His back hurt. His hands hurt. His head hurt from the kind of tiredness that sleep didn't fix anymore. "Dad?" He turned. His son stood in the doorway, barefoot, still in the t-shirt he'd slept in, 10 years old and already carrying weight in his eyes that no kid should have. "Yeah, buddy? We're out of cereal again." Lucas closed his eyes. "I know. I'll get some today." "You said that yesterday." "I mean it this time." Ethan didn't argue. He just nodded and went back inside, and somehow that was worse than if he'd complained. Kids were supposed to complain. They were supposed to push back. Ethan had stopped doing that 3 months ago, right around the time his mother's car disappeared down the driveway and never came back. Lucas dumped the rest of his coffee into the dirt and headed for the barn. The tractor sat in the middle of the floor like a monument to everything that was falling apart. He'd spent 2 hours on it yesterday and gotten nowhere. The engine turned over but wouldn't catch. Something in the fuel line, probably. Or the carburetor, or some other expensive thing he couldn't afford to replace. He knelt beside it anyway because what else was he going to do? The morning unraveled the way mornings always did now, one small crisis bleeding into the next. The chickens needed feeding. The water trough had a crack. His daughter Lily wanted to know where her favorite shoes were, and he had no idea because keeping track of shoes required a kind of mental bandwidth he didn't have anymore. He made toast for breakfast because toast was all there was. Ethan ate in silence. Lily picked at hers and asked when Mom was coming back, and Lucas said he didn't know because he'd stopped lying to them about it. By 9 o'clock, he was back at the tractor, hands black with grease, frustration building behind his teeth. That's when the knock came. He almost didn't hear it over the clang of metal, but then it came again, 3 solid raps on the barn door. Lucas straightened, wiping his hands on a rag that only made them dirtier. "Yeah?" The door creaked open and a woman stepped inside. She was young, mid-20s maybe, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and a canvas jacket that looked like it had seen some miles. She carried a duffel bag over one shoulder and her expression was carefully neutral, the kind of face people wore when they were used to not being welcome. "Help you?" Lucas said. "I saw the sign," she said. Her voice was quiet, steady. "Down by the road, said you were looking for help." Lucas blinked. He'd forgotten about that sign. He'd put it up 2 weeks ago in a moment of desperation and then never thought about it again because nobody in their right mind wanted to work a failing farm for the kind of wages he could offer. "You looking for work?" he asked. "I am." He studied her. She didn't look like much. Average height, slim build, nothing about her that screamed farm labor. But there was something in the way she stood, weight balanced, shoulders square, like she'd worked before. Like she wasn't afraid of it. "You got experience?" Some. "Enough." Lucas almost smiled, confidence or desperation, he couldn't tell. Maybe both. "Pay's not great," he said. "I figured. Room and board included. Spare bedroom in the house. Meals when there are meals." She nodded. "What's your name?" "Aria Quinn." "Lucas Hayes." He tossed the rag onto the workbench. "When can you start?" "Now." He did smile then, just a little. "All right, let's see what you got." Arya wasn't what he expected. Most people who showed up looking for farm work wanted to prove themselves right away, wanted to show they could lift heavy things or work long hours or handle whatever got thrown at them. Arya didn't do any of that. She just watched, listened, asked a few quiet questions, and then got to work. Lucas showed her the chicken coop first, half expecting her to balk at the smell or the mess. She didn't. Just rolled up her sleeves and started mucking out the old straw like she'd done it 1,000 times. "You grow up on a farm?" he asked. "No." "Learn this somewhere else?" "Here and there." She didn't elaborate and he didn't push. People had reasons for being vague, and most of those reasons were none of his business. By noon, she'd cleaned the coop, patched the door, and organized the feed bins in a way that actually made sense. Lucas found her kneeling by the water trough, examining the crack. "This needs replacing," she said. "I know. Or we could patch it. Temporary fix, but it'll hold for a while." "You know how to do that?" She glanced up at him. "You got sealant?" He did. He brought it out and watched as she worked, her hands quick and sure. She didn't talk much, didn't ask for help, just did the job and moved on to the next thing. By the time the sun started sinking, Lucas realized she'd done more in 6 hours than he'd managed in the last 3 days. "You hungry?" he asked. Arya straightened, brushing dirt off her knees. "I can make something if you want." "You don't have to. I don't mind." She said it like she meant it, like cooking wasn't a chore but just another thing that needed doing. Lucas led her up to the house. Ethan and Lily were in the living room, Ethan on the couch with a book he wasn't really reading, Lily sprawled on the floor with a coloring book. They both looked up when the door opened. "Kids," Lucas said, "this is Arya. She's going to be helping out around here." Lily's eyes went wide. "Are you staying?" Arya hesitated just for a second. "For a while." "In the house?" "Lily," Lucas started. "It's okay," Arya said. She crouched down so she was eye level with the girl. "Yeah, in the spare room. Is that all right with you?" Lily nodded slowly, her face serious. "Do you like pancakes?" "I do." "Dad never makes them right." "Lily," Lucas said again, but Arya smiled, a small, fleeting thing that changed her whole face. "Maybe I can help with that," she said. Dinner that night was simple. Pasta with jarred sauce, a salad from the wilted greens Lucas had been meaning to use. But Arya moved through the kitchen like she knew where everything was supposed to be, and when they sat down to eat it felt different, less like survival and more like an actual meal. Ethan didn't say much, but he finished his plate. Lily talked enough for both of them, asking Arya questions about where she was from, and whether she liked horses, and if she'd ever seen a shooting star. Arya answered patiently, giving just enough to keep the conversation going without giving anything real away. Lucas watched from across the table, trying to figure her out. After dinner, Arya helped clean up without being asked. Then she excused herself and disappeared into the spare bedroom, closing the door softly behind her. Lucas stood in the kitchen, drying the last plate, listening to the quiet. For the first time in months, the house didn't feel empty. The days that followed fell into a rhythm. Arya was up early, always before Lucas. By the time he stumbled into the kitchen, she'd have coffee made and the kids' lunches packed. She worked through the morning without complaint, fixing fence posts, hauling feed, doing the 100 small tasks that kept a farm from falling apart completely. She didn't talk much, but she didn't need to. Her presence was steady, reliable. It was enough. The kids warmed to her faster than Lucas expected. Lily followed her around like a shadow, chattering about everything and nothing. Arya listened with the kind of attention most adults didn't bother with. She braided Lily's hair in the mornings. She helped Ethan with his math homework without making him feel stupid. She brought a lightness into the house that had been missing so long Lucas had forgotten what it felt like. He caught himself watching her sometimes. The way she moved, efficient, deliberate. The way she smiled at the kids when she thought no one was looking. The way she stood at the edge of the porch in the evenings, staring out at the fields like she was trying to memorize something. "Who are you?" he wanted to ask, but he didn't, because he knew what it was like to carry things you didn't want to explain. 2 weeks in, Lucas woke to the smell of bacon. He came downstairs to find Arya at the stove, flipping pancakes while Lily set the table with exaggerated care. "What's all this?" he asked. Lily said you never make pancakes right, Arya said without turning around. Thought I'd give it a shot. Lucas leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, trying not to smile. That's so. Arya's are way better, Lily announced. Haven't even tried them yet, kid. I can tell. Ethan came in then, hair sticking up at odd angles, and stopped short when he saw the spread. Is it somebody's birthday? Nope, Arya said. She slid a plate in front of him. Just pancakes. They sat down together, and it felt almost normal, almost like the kind of family breakfast Lucas used to imagine back when he thought he knew what his life would look like. Lily drowned her pancakes in syrup. Ethan ate 3 without stopping, and Lucas sat there, coffee in hand, watching this stranger who'd walked into their lives 2 weeks ago make his kids smile like it was the easiest thing in the world. These are good, he said quietly. Arya glanced at him, something unreadable in her eyes. Thanks. After breakfast, she cleared the plates and started washing dishes. Lucas grabbed a towel to dry. You don't have to do all this, he said. I know. I mean, the cooking, the kids. That's not what I hired you for. Arya was quiet for a moment, hands submerged in soapy water. I don't mind. Still, she handed him a plate. They're good kids, Lucas. They just needed someone to pay attention. The way she said it, like it was simple, like paying attention was all it took. Their mom didn't think so, he said before he could stop himself. Arya didn't flinch. Then their mom was wrong. Lucas stared at her, caught off guard by the certainty in her voice. She left, he said. It came out rougher than he meant. 3 months ago, woke up one morning and decided she was done. Done with the farm, done with me, done with them. I'm sorry. Don't be. We're better off. Are you? He opened his mouth, closed it, set the plate down. I don't know, he admitted. Arya looked at him then, really looked, and for just a second he saw something raw in her expression, something that understood. You will be, she said softly. Ding. The tractor broke down again on a Thursday. Lucas spent the morning under the hood, cursing machinery and his own limitations in equal measure. Arya found him there at lunch, grease up to his elbows, frustration radiating off him in waves. Need help? She asked. Unless you know how to rebuild a carburetor, probably not. She stepped closer, peering at the engine. Fuel's not getting through? Something like that. You checked the filter? He had, 3 times. Yeah. Lines? Yeah. She leaned in, tracing the path with her eyes, and then reached past him to tap a connection near the base. This loose? Lucas froze. He hadn't checked that. Hadn't even thought to. He tested it. It wiggled under his fingers. Damn. Arya handed him a wrench. He tightened the connection, then climbed into the seat and turned the key. The engine coughed once, twice, and then roared to life. Lucas sat there, hands on the wheel, staring at the dashboard like it had personally betrayed him. Where'd you learn that? He asked. Arya shrugged. Picked it up? From where? Does it matter? He looked at her, this woman who fixed things without being asked, who made his kids laugh, who carried herself like someone who'd learned not to need anyone. No, he said quietly. I guess it doesn't. That night, after the kids were in bed, Lucas found Arya on the porch. She sat on the steps, knees pulled up, staring out at the dark fields. The moon was half full, and the stars were out in force, the way they only got this far from the city. Mind if I sit? He asked. She glanced over. It's your porch. He sat anyway, leaving a careful foot of space between them. For a while, neither of them spoke. You ever think about leaving? Arya asked eventually. Lucas considered the question. Used to. When things got bad. When it felt like everything was falling apart faster than I could fix it. He paused. But this is home. For them, anyway. I can't take that from them, too. Arya nodded slowly. What about you? He asked. You think about staying? I don't really stay anywhere. Why not? She was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was almost too soft to hear. People don't want me to. Lucas frowned. What's that mean? It means I'm good at being temporary. She pulled her knees tighter. I show up, I help, and then I leave before it gets complicated. Sounds lonely. It is. The honesty of it hit him square in the chest. You don't have to leave, he said. Arya looked at him then, and in the pale moonlight he could see the conflict written across her face. The part of her that wanted to believe him, and the part that had stopped believing a long time ago. We'll see, she said. The weeks blurred together after that. Arya became part of the fabric of their lives in a way that felt inevitable, like she'd always been there. She taught Lily how to braid her own hair. She helped Ethan build a birdhouse that actually stayed together. She fixed the irrigation pump and organized the barn and somehow made the whole farm run a little smoother. And Lucas found himself looking for her in the mornings, listening for her voice, noticing the small things she did that made the house feel less like a battlefield and more like a home. He tried not to think about what that meant, tried not to notice the way his heart kicked up when she smiled, tried not to imagine what it would be like if she stayed, because wanting things, wanting her, felt dangerous, like reaching for something he had no right to hold. But late at night, when the house was quiet and he lay awake staring at the ceiling, he let himself wonder, what if? The first real crack came on a Saturday. The town was having its annual harvest festival, one of those small-town traditions that everybody showed up for whether they wanted to or not. Lucas hadn't planned on going. He never did anymore. But Lily begged, and Ethan actually looked interested, and Arya said she didn't mind, so they piled into the truck and drove the 15 minutes to town. The square was packed, booths selling crafts and pies and homemade jam, kids running around with their faces painted, a band playing country covers on a makeshift stage. Lily dragged Arya toward the face-painting booth. Ethan wandered off to look at the woodworking displays, and Lucas stood there, hands in his pockets, feeling out of place in his own town. Lucas Hayes! He turned. A woman he vaguely recognized, someone from the school board maybe, was smiling at him with the kind of sympathy that made his skin crawl. Didn't expect to see you here, she said. Yeah, well, kids wanted to come. Of course. Her eyes drifted past him. That the new help I've been hearing about? Lucas followed her gaze. Arya was crouched down, letting Lily decide between a butterfly and a flower. She was smiling, really smiling. Yeah, he said. That's Arya. The woman's expression shifted into something he couldn't quite read. Well, good for you. Must be nice having someone around. There was an edge to the words he didn't like. She's been a big help, he said carefully. I'm sure. The woman patted his arm. You take care, Lucas. She walked away, and he was left standing there with a bad feeling curling in his gut. It got worse. Over the next hour, Lucas noticed the looks, the whispers, people glancing at Arya and then at him and then leaning in to murmur something to whoever they were with. He didn't understand it at first, but then he overheard two women talking near the lemonade stand. That's her, isn't it? I think so. God, the nerve. After what happened, showing her face here like nothing. Lucas's blood went cold. He walked over. Excuse me, you talking about Arya? The women startled. One of them had the decency to look embarrassed. The other just lifted her chin. We were just saying it's surprising to see her, the second woman said. Given everything. Given what? You don't know? Know what? The woman exchanged a glance with her friend. Maybe you should ask her. I'm asking you. Fine. She crossed her arms. A few years back she was engaged, big wedding planned, except her fiancé called it off 2 days before. Stood her up in front of everyone, family, friends, the whole town. Said he couldn't go through with it, that he'd made a mistake. She paused. It was humiliating. She left town right after and nobody's seen her since. Until now. Lucas felt like the ground had shifted under him. So? He said. The woman blinked. So? So what's that got to do with anything now? I'm just saying, people talk. And if she's living with you, she works for me. That's it. Lucas, that's it, he said again, harder. He turned and walked away before he said something he'd regret. He found Arya near the dunk tank, watching Lily try to hit the target. She looked calm, easy, like she had no idea what people were saying about her. Hey, he said. She glanced over. Hey. You having fun? Lily is, which is close enough. He wanted to tell her what he'd heard, wanted to ask if it was true, wanted to know why she'd never said anything. But looking at her now, the guarded way she held herself, the careful distance she kept from everyone, he understood. She'd been running from this, from the shame, from the memory of being left in front of everyone who mattered, and she thought if she stayed quiet, maybe it wouldn't follow her. Arya! Dad! Lily came running up, face painted like a tiger, grinning ear to ear. Look! Lucas forced a smile. Looks great, sweetheart. Arya helped me pick it. Did she? She's really good at picking things. Arya's expression softened. You did all the hard work, kid. They stayed another hour. Lucas tried to act normal, tried not to notice the stares or the way people kept their distance from Arya, like whatever bad luck she carried might be contagious. By the time they got back to the truck, his jaw hurt from clenching it. That night, after the kids were asleep, he found her in the kitchen. She was making tea, her movements slow and deliberate. I heard some things today, Lucas said. Arya went still. What kind of things? About you, about what happened before. Her hands tightened on the mug. I see. Why didn't you tell me? Because it doesn't matter. Doesn't it? She turned to face him, and he saw the walls go up in real time, the shutters closing over whatever she'd been letting him see. I didn't think I'd be here long enough for it to matter, she said quietly. And now? Now I'm still not sure. Lucas stepped closer. People are going to talk, Arya. They already are. But I don't care about that. You should. Why? Because I'm not... She stopped, took a breath. I'm not someone you build a life around, Lucas. I'm someone who shows up and then leaves. That's what I do. What if I don't want you to leave? The question hung between them, too big and too honest. Arya shook her head. You don't know what you're saying. Yeah, I do. No, you don't. You see someone who helps with the kids and fixes the tractor and makes things easier. But that's not real. I'm not... Her voice cracked. I'm not what you think I am. Then tell me what you are. I'm someone who got left, she said, and the rawness in her voice nearly broke him. I'm someone who wasn't enough. And if I stay, if I let myself stay, it's going to happen again. Because that's what always happens. Lucas stared at her, at the pain etched into every line of her face, and he wanted to close the distance between them, wanted to tell her she was wrong, that she was more than enough, that she'd brought his family back to life just by being here. But he could see she wasn't ready to hear it. So instead he said, I'm not him. Arya looked at him, eyes shining. I know, she whispered. Then she walked past him, down the hall, and closed her bedroom door. And Lucas stood alone in the kitchen, surrounded by the quiet ruins of everything he didn't know how to fix. The morning came too bright and too early. Lucas woke to the sound of the coffee maker. Arya's routine, same as always. For a moment he just lay there, staring at the ceiling, replaying last night's conversation in his head. The way her voice had broken. The way she'd looked at him like he was offering something she couldn't afford to want. He dragged himself out of bed and went downstairs. Arya was at the counter, back to him, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. She didn't turn when he came in. Morning, he said. Morning. Her voice was flat, professional. All the warmth from the last few weeks carefully packed away. Lucas's chest tightened. Arya, I'm going to fix the fence in the east pasture today, she said, still not looking at him. Noticed a few posts rotting through. Should probably get that done before the weather turns. Okay. And the gutters need cleaning. I can do that after. You don't have to... It's my job. The words landed like a door closing. Lucas stood there, coffee going cold in his hands, and watched her walk out the back door without another word. He heard Lily's footsteps on the stairs and forced himself to move, to put on the dad face, to pretend everything was fine. But it wasn't fine, and he had no idea how to fix it. The next few days were careful and quiet. Arya threw herself into work with an intensity that felt like armor. She was up before dawn, out in the fields until after dark, speaking only when spoken to. At meals, she sat at the table like a guest who knew she was overstaying her welcome. The kids noticed. Lily asked twice if Arya was mad at her. Ethan just got quieter, retreating back into the shell he'd been crawling out of. Lucas tried to talk to her, tried to find a moment when she wasn't already walking away. But every time he got close, she found an excuse to leave, something that needed fixing, something that couldn't wait. On the fourth day, he cornered her in the barn. "We need to talk," he said. Arya didn't look up from the saddle she was oiling. "About what?" "You know what? I'm working, Lucas. So take a break." "I don't need a break." "Arya, what do you want me to say?" She finally looked at him, and her eyes were hard, guarded. "You want me to apologize for being honest? For telling you the truth? I want you to stop acting like I'm the enemy. I'm not. You're shutting me out, shutting the kids out. Lily thinks she did something wrong." That got through. He saw the flash of guilt cross her face before she could hide it. "I'll talk to her," Arya said quietly. "That's not the point." "Then what is?" Lucas stepped closer. "The point is you're running, and you haven't even left yet." Arya's jaw tightened. "Maybe I should." "Is that what you want?" "It's what's smart." "That's not what I asked." She stared at him, something raw and desperate flickering in her expression. "What I want doesn't matter, Lucas. It never has." "That's not true." "Yes, it is." Her voice cracked. "You think I don't know how this ends? I stay. I let myself care. And then one day you wake up and realize I'm not worth the trouble, that I'm just the hired help who got ideas above her station. And I'll have to leave anyway, except it'll hurt a hell of a lot more." "You really think I'd do that?" "I think everyone does eventually." The certainty in her voice gutted him. Lucas took a breath. "The guy who left you, don't." He was an idiot, Arya, and a coward. And whatever he made you believe about yourself, it's not true. "You don't know me." "Well, I know you've kept this place from falling apart. I know my kids smile again because of you. I know you work yourself half to death because you think that's all you're worth." He paused. "And I know you're scared, but so am I." Arya's eyes went wide. "What? You think you're the only one who's afraid of this?" He let out a rough laugh. "My wife walked out on me, Arya. On us. She looked at this life, at me, and decided it wasn't enough. So yeah, I'm terrified. Terrified that if I let myself want this, want you, it's going to blow up in my face the same way." She was staring at him now, lips parted, defenses cracking. "But I'm tired of being afraid," Lucas said quietly. "And I'm tired of pretending I don't feel something when you're around." The silence stretched between them, thick and fragile. "Lucas," Arya whispered, "I don't know how to do this." "Do what?" "Stay. Be wanted. I don't—" She pressed her hands to her face. "I don't know how to believe it's real." He reached out slowly and pulled her hands away from her face, held them. Her fingers were cold and rough from work. "Then let me show you," he said. Arya looked at him like he was offering her the world in a trap, all at once. "I need time," she said finally. "Okay. I can't promise anything. I'm not asking you to." She nodded, not quite meeting his eyes, and pulled her hands free. But her shoulders had lost some of their rigid tension. It wasn't much, but it was something. What? That night, Arya came back. Not physically. She'd been there all along. But when she sat down at dinner, she looked at Lily when the girl spoke. She smiled when Ethan told a bad joke. And when Lucas caught her eye across the table, she didn't look away. It was a start. The days after that were different. Still careful, but softer around the edges. Arya stopped working herself into the ground. She lingered at breakfast. She sat on the porch in the evenings instead of disappearing into her room. She was still holding back, still keeping part of herself locked away. But the walls had cracks now. Lucas could see through them. And he waited, because pushing her would only make her run. 2 weeks later, the school called. Lucas was in the middle of fixing a busted water line when his phone buzzed. He almost didn't answer, but the number was local and persistent, so he wiped his hands and picked up. "Mr. Hayes? Yeah? This is Principal Morris from the elementary school. We've had an incident involving your son." Lucas's stomach dropped. "What kind of incident?" "A fight. He's all right, no serious injuries, but we need you to come in." Lucas closed his eyes. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. He found Arya in the garden, pulling weeds. "I have to go to the school. Ethan got in a fight." She stood immediately. "Is he okay?" "They said he's fine. Can you watch Lily?" Of course. You want me to come with you? He hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, if you don't mind. Let me grab my jacket. They drove in silence, Lucas gripping the wheel too tight, mind racing through every worst-case scenario. Arya sat beside him, calm and steady, and somehow that helped. The school was a low brick building that looked like every other small-town elementary. Principal Morris met them in the office, a woman in her 50s with glasses and an expression that said she'd seen this all before. Mr. Hayes, thank you for coming. She glanced at Arya. And you are? Arya Quinn. I work for Lucas. I see. Morris gestured to the chairs. Please, sit. Lucas sat. Arya stood behind him, one hand resting lightly on the back of his chair. What happened? Lucas asked. Morris folded her hands on her desk. Ethan got into a physical altercation with another student during recess. According to witnesses, the other boy made a comment about his family situation, and Ethan responded with his fists. Lucas's jaw tightened. What kind of comment? I'd rather not repeat it. Suffice to say it was unkind. Where's Ethan now? Waiting in the counselor's office. He's not in trouble, Mr. Hayes. Not really. We understand he's been going through a difficult time. But we're concerned. This isn't the first time he's withdrawn from his classmates. And now this, it's a pattern we can't ignore. Lucas felt the weight of it settle on his shoulders. Another thing he'd failed to fix. Another way he was letting his kid down. Can I see him? He asked. Of course. Morris led them down the hall to a small office where Ethan sat in a chair that was too big for him. His knuckles were scraped and there was a bruise forming on his cheek. He looked up when they came in and his face crumpled. I'm sorry, he said, voice breaking. Lucas crossed the room and pulled him into a hug. It's okay, buddy. It's okay. He said, Mom left because we weren't worth staying for. Lucas's blood went cold. Who said that? Tyler Brennan. That kid's a little... Lucas stopped himself, took a breath. He's wrong, Ethan. You know that, right? Ethan nodded against his chest, but Lucas could feel him shaking. Arya knelt down beside them. Hey, she said softly. Ethan looked at her, eyes red. You know what I think? Arya said. I think Tyler Brennan is a kid who doesn't know what he's talking about. And I think you're one of the bravest people I've ever met. I'm not brave. You are. You get up every day and you keep going even when things are hard. That's brave. I punched him. Yeah, you did, and that wasn't great. But I get why. She reached out and touched his scraped knuckles gently. Sometimes when people hurt us, we want to hurt them back. That's normal. But it doesn't make the hurt go away. It just makes more of it. Ethan sniffed. What am I supposed to do instead? Talk to someone. Your dad. Me. Anyone who'll listen. Because keeping it inside, that's what makes it unbearable. Lucas watched her, something fierce and aching swelling in his chest. She was so good with them, so careful, and so honest. Ethan wiped his eyes. Okay. Okay. Morris cleared her throat from the doorway. Ethan, why don't you wait here with Ms. Quinn while your father and I finish talking? Lucas stood, reluctant to leave, but Arya gave him a small nod. I've got him, she said. He followed Morris back to her office. I'm not suspending him, Morris said once they were seated, but I do think he could benefit from talking to someone. A counselor, maybe? Someone outside the family. Lucas nodded slowly. Yeah. All right. And Mr. Hayes, if you don't mind me saying, it might help if he had more stability at home. I know things have been difficult since your wife left, but kids need routine. They need to know what to expect. I'm doing the best I can. I know, and it shows. Ethan's a good kid. He's just struggling. She paused. Is Ms. Quinn a permanent addition to the household? Lucas stiffened. She works for me. Of course. I'm just asking because Ethan mentioned her a few times. Said she's been helping out. And from what I saw just now, she's good with him. She is, Morris smiled gently. Then maybe that's the stability he needs. On the drive home, Ethan sat in the back seat, quiet. Arya turned in her seat to look at him. You doing okay? She asked. He shrugged. That's fair? She was quiet for a moment. You know, when I was about your age, I got in a fight too. Ethan's eyes flicked up. You did? Yep. This girl in my class said some nasty stuff about my mom, so I shoved her into a locker. Did you get in trouble? Oh yeah, big time. My mom was furious. But later, after she calmed down, she told me something I didn't forget. What? She said people who say cruel things are usually hurting too. And hurting them back doesn't fix anything. It just makes the world a meaner place. Arya turned back around. I didn't really get it at the time, but I do now. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Then, softly, do you think my mom was hurting? The question hit like a punch. Lucas's hands tightened on the wheel. He didn't know how to answer that, didn't know if the truth would help or just make it worse. But Arya spoke first. I don't know your mom, Ethan, but I do know that sometimes people leave because they're broken in ways that have nothing to do with the people they're leaving. It's not fair, and it's not right, but it's not your fault either. Then whose fault is it? Hers. The certainty in Arya's voice left no room for doubt. Ethan absorbed that, then nodded. When they got home, Lily was on the porch waiting. She took one look at Ethan's bruised face, and her eyes went wide. What happened? Got in a fight, Ethan mumbled. Did you win? Despite everything, Ethan smiled a little. Yeah. Good. Lucas almost laughed. Lily. What? He did. Arya did laugh then, a real unguarded sound, and suddenly the heaviness lifted just enough to breathe. That night, after the kids were in bed, Lucas found Arya in the kitchen again. She was making tea, same as always. Thank you, he said. For what? For today. For what you said to Ethan. For... He stopped. For being here. Arya set the kettle down. I didn't do anything special. Yeah, you did. She turned to face him, and in the low light of the kitchen she looked younger, more vulnerable. I meant what I said, she told him quietly, about it not being his fault, about it being hers. I know. Do you? She took a step closer. Because sometimes I think you blame yourself too, for her leaving. Like you could have been better or done more and she would have stayed. Lucas looked away. Maybe. Lucas? She waited until he met her eyes. You can't fix people who don't want to be fixed. You can't make someone stay who's already decided to go. All you can do is show up for the people who are still here. Like you? Like your kids. But the way she said it, the way her voice caught, made him think she meant herself too. Arya, I'm trying, she said suddenly, to believe this is real, to believe I can stay without everything falling apart. But it's hard. Every time I start to feel safe, my brain tells me it's a lie, that I'm setting myself up for the same thing all over again. What can I do? I don't know, just... She wrapped her arms around herself. Be patient with me. I can do that. She nodded, not quite smiling, but not running either. It was enough. The weeks that followed were gentler. Arya started letting her guard down in small ways. She laughed more. She stayed in the room when Lucas was there instead of finding excuses to leave. She let Lily sit in her lap while they watched a movie. She helped Ethan with a school project without being asked. And Lucas let himself hope, not in the big, reckless way that led to heartbreak, but in the small, stubborn way that said, maybe this could work. Maybe they could build something real. One evening, after the kids were asleep, they sat on the porch together. The stars were out and the air smelled like coming rain. Can I ask you something? Lucas said. Arya glanced at him. Sure. Why'd you come here? To this town, I mean. Of all places. She was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was low. I didn't mean to. I was just driving, trying to get as far from the last place as I could. And then I saw your sign and I thought, maybe this is far enough. Was it? I don't know yet. Lucas wanted to tell her she didn't have to keep running, that she could stop here, that this could be home. But he didn't, because she wasn't ready to hear it. Instead, he said, I'm glad you stopped. Arya looked at him, something soft and uncertain in her eyes. Me too, she whispered. The trouble started again on a Saturday. Lucas had gone into town for supplies, leaving Arya with the kids. When he pulled into the driveway 2 hours later, he saw Lily sitting on the porch steps, crying. He was out of the truck before the engine stopped. Lily, what's wrong? She looked up, face streaked with tears. Arya left. His heart stopped. What? She left. She packed her bag and she left. Where's Ethan? Inside. Lucas ran into the house. Ethan was in the living room staring at the TV without really watching it. What happened? Lucas demanded. Ethan's face was pale. These women came by. They were asking about Arya, saying things. What kind of things? I don't know. I couldn't hear all of it, but Arya got really quiet and then she went to her room and when she came out, she had her bag. His voice cracked. I asked her where she was going and she said she couldn't stay anymore, that it was better this way. Lucas felt like the ground was tilting. How long ago? Maybe 30 minutes? He was moving before he finished thinking. Stay with your sister. I'll be back. Dad! But Lucas was already out the door. He drove too fast, scanning the road for any sign of her. She couldn't have gotten far on foot, unless someone picked her up, unless she was already gone. He found her 2 miles down the road, walking along the shoulder with her duffel bag over one shoulder. Lucas pulled over and got out. Arya. She stopped but didn't turn around. Arya, please. Go home, Lucas. Not without you. I don't belong there. Yes, you do. She finally turned and her face was wrecked. You don't understand. Those women, they weren't wrong. I'm just the girl who got left. The one nobody wanted. And the longer I stay, the more people are going to talk. The more your kids are going to hear things that'll hurt them. I don't care what people say. Well, I do. Her voice broke. I care because I've lived through it, Lucas. I know what it feels like to be the subject of every whisper. To walk into a room and watch people stop talking. To know that everyone is judging you and finding you lacking. And I can't do that to you, to them. Lucas stepped closer. So you're just going to leave? Walk away from the only place you've been happy in years? I was never going to stay. Bullshit. She flinched. You were staying, Lucas said, quieter now. You were letting yourself stay. And then someone said something that scared you and you ran. That's what you do, isn't it? When things get hard, you leave before you can get hurt. That's not fair. It's true. Arya's hands were shaking. You don't know what you're asking. I'm asking you to trust me, to trust that this is real, that what we're building, it matters. What if it's not enough? What if it is? She stared at him, tears streaming down her face, and Lucas saw the war happening inside her, the desperate need to believe him fighting against every scar she carried. I'm so tired of being afraid, she whispered. Then stop running. I don't know how. Lucas closed the distance between them and took her face in his hands. Then let me help you figure it out. For a long moment she just stood there, trembling, caught between wanting and terror. And then, finally, she let herself lean into him, let herself be held. I don't want to leave, she said against his chest. Then don't. But what if? No what ifs. Just stay. Stay, and we'll figure out the rest as we go. Arya pulled back just enough to look at him. Her eyes were red and swollen and more vulnerable than he'd ever seen them. Okay, she breathed. Okay? Okay. Relief crashed through him so hard he almost couldn't breathe. He kissed her forehead. Then he took her bag and put it in the truck and drove them both home. When they pulled into the driveway, Lily was still on the porch. She saw Arya in the passenger seat and her face lit up. You came back! Arya climbed out of the truck, and before she could say anything, Lily threw her arms around her waist. I thought you were gone forever, Lily said, muffled against Arya's shirt. Arya's hands came up slowly, hesitantly, and settled on the girl's shoulders. I'm sorry I scared you. Don't leave again. I won't. Promise? Arya looked over Lily's head at Lucas. He nodded. I promise, Arya said. And for the first time, she meant it. That night, nobody really slept. Lucas heard Arya moving around in her room past midnight. Soft footsteps, the creak of the bed frame, the sound of someone who couldn't settle. He thought about knocking on her door, thought about telling her it was okay, that she'd made the right choice. But he figured she needed space to sit with her decision, to let it become real. So he stayed in his own room and stared at the ceiling and tried not to think about how close he'd come to losing her. Morning came slow and gray, clouds sitting heavy over the fields. Lucas went downstairs to find Arya already in the kitchen, coffee brewing, her hair still damp from a shower. She looked tired, raw, but she was there. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. She glanced at him. "Not really." "Me neither." They stood there in the quiet, the coffee maker hissing and gurgling between them. "You regret it?" Lucas asked. "Coming back?" Arya turned the question over for a moment. "No, but I'm scared I will." "That's honest." "That's all I've got right now." He poured them both coffee, their fingers brushing when he handed her the mug. She didn't pull away. "For what it's worth," Lucas said, "I'm scared too." "Of what?" "That I'm asking too much. That you'll wake up one day and realize this isn't what you signed up for." Arya's mouth twitched, not quite a smile. "Guess we're both a mess." "Guess so." They heard Lily's voice from upstairs, calling for Arya, and the moment broke. Arya set down her mug and headed for the stairs. Lucas watched her go and felt something settle in his chest. Not relief exactly, more like the first breath after holding it too long. She was staying, at least for now. That had to be enough. The days that followed were quieter but heavier. Like everyone was waiting for the other shoe to drop. Arya threw herself back into work, but it was different now. Less frantic, less like she was trying to prove something. She fixed the barn door that had been sticking for months. She helped Ethan build a treehouse in the big oak out back. She taught Lily how to make bread from scratch, the two of them elbow deep in flour and laughing when the dough stuck to everything. Lucas watched it all and tried not to let himself want too much. But it was hard, because every time Arya smiled at something one of the kids said, every time she sat beside him at dinner without that careful distance between them, he felt the future creeping closer, felt the shape of what his life could be if he just let himself reach for it. A week after she came back, Lucas was in the barn when he heard a truck pull up outside. He stepped out to see the man climbing down from the cab, mid-40s, dressed in work clothes, face weathered from years in the sun. Lucas didn't recognize him. "Help you?" Lucas called. The man turned. "You Lucas Hayes?" "Yeah." "Name's Gordon. I own the feed store over in Millbrook." "Okay." Gordon walked closer, and Lucas noticed the tension in his shoulders, the set of his jaw. "I'll get to the point," Gordon said. "I heard you've got Arya Quinn working here." Lucas's spine stiffened. "What about it?" "Just wondering if you know who she is." "I know who she is." "Do you?" Gordon crossed his arms. "Because she's got a history, Hayes, and if you're letting her around your kids—" "Stop right there." Gordon blinked. "Excuse me?" "I said stop. Whatever you came here to say, I'm not interested. I'm just trying to look out for you. She's what? A woman who got humiliated by some coward who didn't have the guts to face her?" "Yeah, I know. And I don't care." Gordon's face hardened. "People talk, Hayes. And if you think having her here won't affect your kids—" "My kids are fine. Better than fine. And Arya's part of the reason why. So unless you've got actual business, I'm going to ask you to leave." Gordon stared at him for a long moment. Then he shook his head. "Your funeral." He climbed back into his truck and drove off, gravel spitting under the tires. Lucas stood there, fists clenched, adrenaline still buzzing under his skin. He heard footsteps behind him and turned to see Arya standing in the barn doorway. She'd heard everything. He could see it in her face. "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly. "Yeah, I did." "Lucas?" "No." He walked over to her. "I meant what I said. I don't care what people think. I care about you, about what you've done for my family. And if anyone's got a problem with that, they can take it up with me." Arya looked at him, something vulnerable and aching in her eyes. "You're going to lose friends over this." "Then they weren't really friends. People are going to talk." "Let them." She shook her head, but she was almost smiling. "You're stubborn." "So are you." "Yeah." She reached out and touched his arm, just briefly. "Thank you." "For what?" "For not making me feel like I have to keep apologizing for existing." The words hit him harder than they should have. "You never have to apologize for that," Lucas said. "Not here. Not with me. Arya nodded, and for a second he thought she might cry. But she pulled herself together and turned back toward the barn. "Come on," she said. "That fence isn't going to fix itself." 2 days later, the school called again. This time, it was about Lily. Lucas took the call in the kitchen, Arya standing nearby with a dish towel in her hands. Principal Morris's voice was calm but firm. "Mr. Hayes, we had an incident today during lunch. Lily got into an argument with another student. It escalated and she said some things we need to address." Lucas's stomach sank. "What kind of things?" "She told another girl that her mother didn't matter because she had Arya now. And when the girl asked who Arya was, Lily said," Morris paused. "She said Arya was more of a mom than most people's real moms." Lucas closed his eyes. "I see. We're not punishing her, but we do think it's worth a conversation about boundaries, about what's appropriate to say. Yeah, I'll talk to her. And Mr. Hayes, if you don't mind me asking, is this Arya person a permanent part of your household? Because if Lily's forming attachments, she works for me. But yeah, she's been around a lot. I understand. Just be mindful. Kids get confused when the adults in their lives aren't clear about roles." Lucas hung up feeling like he'd been punched. Arya was watching him, worry creasing her forehead. "What happened?" He told her. Arya set the dish towel down slowly. "I need to talk to her." "Arya, you don't—" "Yes, I do." She walked out before he could argue. Lucas found them both in Lily's room 20 minutes later. Lily was sitting on the bed, face blotchy from crying. Arya sat beside her, holding her hand. "I didn't mean to get in trouble," Lily was saying. "I know, sweetheart. Katie said her mom makes her favorite dinners every night and drives her to dance class, and I said, 'You do that for me,' and she said, 'You're not my mom,' and I got mad." Arya's expression was gentle but sad. "Katie's right, Lily. I'm not your mom." Lily's face crumpled. "But you're nicer than she was, and you actually like being here. That doesn't make me your mom." "Then what are you?" Arya looked at Lucas standing in the doorway, and he saw the question reflected back at him. What was she? How were they supposed to define this? "I'm someone who cares about you," Arya said finally. "Someone who wants to be here. But I can't replace your mom, Lily. Nobody can." "I don't want her back," Lily said fiercely. "I want you." Arya's eyes filled with tears. "Oh, honey." She pulled Lily into a hug, and Lucas watched his daughter cling to this woman who'd walked into their lives 3 months ago and somehow become essential. It scared the hell out of him, because what happened if Arya left? What happened if she woke up one day and decided this was too much, too complicated, too hard? The kids were already attached, especially Lily. If Arya walked away now, it would break them, and Lucas wasn't sure he could put them back together again. That night, after the kids were in bed, Lucas found Arya on the porch. She was sitting on the steps, arms wrapped around her knees, staring out at the dark fields. He sat down beside her. "You okay?" "I don't know. That was a lot today." "Yeah." She was quiet for a moment. "I never wanted to confuse them. I thought I could just help out, be useful. I didn't think they'd start seeing me as something more. Kids latch onto people who show up for them. You showed up. But I'm not their mom, Lucas, and I don't know if I can be." The words hung heavy between them. "Nobody's asking you to be," Lucas said carefully. "Lily is. Lily's 7. She doesn't know what she's asking." Arya turned to look at him. "What about you? What are you asking?" Lucas took a breath. This was the conversation they'd been avoiding, the one that required honesty neither of them was ready for. "I don't know," he admitted. "I know I want you here. I know my life is better with you in it, but I can't ask you to be something you're not ready to be." "What if I'm never ready?" "Then we figure it out. That's not fair to you, or the kids." "Life's not fair, Arya. We both know that." He shifted to face her. "But I'd rather have you here exactly as you are than not have you at all." She looked at him with so much conflict in her eyes it hurt to see. "I care about them," she said quietly. "About Lily and Ethan. More than I expected to. And that terrifies me because I don't know how to be what they need. I don't know how to be a mom. My own mother—" She stopped, swallowed. "She wasn't great, and I don't have a roadmap for this." "Neither do I." Lucas said. I'm making it up as I go, and I screw up constantly. But they're your kids. You're supposed to screw up. I'm just your family, Lucas said. Maybe not in the traditional way, but your family. Arya's breath hitched. Lucas, I'm not asking you to have all the answers. I'm just asking you to stay, to keep doing what you're doing. The rest, we'll figure it out together. She stared at him, tears slipping down her cheeks. What if I mess this up? Then we fix it, same as everything else. She let out a shaky laugh. You make it sound so simple. It's not, but it's also not as complicated as you think. Arya wiped her eyes, and when she looked at him again, something had shifted. Some of the fear had loosened its grip. Okay, she whispered. Okay? Okay. Lucas reached out and took her hand. She squeezed back, and for a while they just sat there, holding on, watching the stars come out over the fields. The next few weeks were a study in small adjustments. Arya started being more careful about boundaries with Lily. She still braided her hair and helped with homework, but she gently corrected the girl when she called her mom. It broke something in Lily every time, but Arya held firm. Kind, but firm. Ethan noticed. He was quieter about it, but Lucas saw the way he watched Arya. The way he tested the waters with small questions. Would she be at his soccer game? Would she help him with his science project? Would she still be here next month? She always said yes, but Lucas could see the cost of those promises in the tightness around her eyes. She was terrified of letting them down, and Lucas was terrified of pushing her too hard. It was a balancing act neither of them had signed up for, but here they were, walking the tightrope anyway. One Saturday morning, Lucas woke to find Arya already gone. Her bed was made, her jacket missing from the hook. He checked the barn, the fields, the garden. Nothing. Panic started to claw its way up his throat. Then he saw the note on the kitchen counter. Went to town for supplies, back by noon. A. He let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. She came back 3 hours later with a truck bed full of lumber and a determined look on her face. What's all this? Lucas asked. For the treehouse. Ethan wants to add a second level, and the wood we had isn't enough. She started unloading boards. Figured I'd handle it. Lucas helped her carry the lumber to the backyard. You didn't have to do this. I wanted to. Arya, Lucas. She stopped and looked at him. Let me do this. Let me be here for them in the ways I can. He heard what she wasn't saying, that she was trying, that this was her way of showing up even when she was scared. All right, he said. Let's build a tree house. They spent the afternoon working side by side, Ethan and Lily handing them tools and asking 1,000 questions. By sunset, they had the frame up for the second level. It wasn't perfect. A few boards were crooked, a couple nails bent, but it was solid. It would hold. Ethan stood back and stared at it, eyes wide. This is so cool. Arya smiled. Yeah? Yeah. He turned to her. Thank you. You're welcome, Dee. Lily tugged on Arya's sleeve. Can we sleep in it tonight? Absolutely not, Lucas said. But Dad, it's not finished, and it's 40 feet off the ground. 30, Arya corrected. Still no. Lily pouted but didn't push. She'd learned which battles were worth fighting. That night, after the kids were asleep, Lucas and Arya sat on the porch with beers Lucas had been saving for no particular occasion. The air was cool and the crickets were loud and everything felt almost peaceful. This is nice, Arya said quietly. Yeah. I didn't think I'd ever have this. Have what? A place that feels like I could stay. Lucas turned to look at her. You thinking about staying? She took a long drink. I'm thinking about not running, which is different, but it's something. It's a start. Yeah. She was quiet for a moment. I saw Gordon today, at the feed store. Lucas tensed. What'd he say? Nothing. But he looked at me like I was something he'd scraped off his boot. She let out a bitter laugh. I'm used to it, but it still sucks. I'm sorry. Don't be. You didn't do anything wrong. Neither did you. Arya glanced at him. You keep saying that. Because it's true. You don't know the whole story, Lucas. So tell me. She hesitated, then set her beer down and folded her hands in her lap. His name was Daniel, she said. We met when I was 22. He was older, charming, seemed like he had his life together. I thought, she stopped, started again. I thought he was the kind of person who wouldn't leave. And for a while it was good. We got engaged, planned this big wedding, invited everyone we knew. Lucas waited, not pushing. 2 days before the wedding, he called me, said he couldn't do it, that he'd made a mistake, that I wasn't. Her voice cracked. He said I wasn't enough, that he'd been trying to convince himself I was, but he couldn't anymore. Jesus, Arya. I had to call everyone, had to cancel everything, had to stand there and tell people that the man I loved decided I wasn't worth marrying. She wiped her eyes. And the worst part? Some of them agreed with him, like it made sense that he'd leave, like of course he would. Lucas felt rage burning in his chest. They were wrong. Were they? Because he left. And my mom left when I was 16, and every foster family I had before that, they all left too. So maybe the problem is me. No. Lucas, no. He turned to face her fully. The problem is them. Every single person who walked away from you was too broken or too stupid or too selfish to see what they had. But that's not on you. That's on them. Arya was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. I'm so tired of feeling like I'm not enough, she whispered. You are enough. You're more than enough. You don't know that. Yeah, I do, because I see it every day. I see the way you show up for my kids, the way you fix things that are broken, the way you keep going even when you're scared. He reached out and took her hand. You're the strongest person I know, Arya, and if Daniel couldn't see that, he's an idiot. She let out a wet laugh. You're biased. Damn right I am. She squeezed his hand and they sat there in the dark, holding on like it was the only thing keeping them both upright. Thank you, she said finally. For what? For making me believe I could be enough, even if it's just for a little while. It's not just for a little while. She looked at him, and in her eyes he saw hope fighting with fear. I want to believe that, she said. Then believe it. I'm trying. That's all I'm asking. The turning point came 2 weeks later. It was a Thursday, unremarkable in every way, when Lily came home from school with a permission slip for a father-daughter dance. She handed it to Lucas at dinner, her face carefully neutral. What's this? He asked. It's at school next month. We're supposed to bring our dads. Lucas scanned the paper. Okay. Yeah, we can do that. Lily nodded and went back to her food, but Lucas saw the way her shoulders relaxed, like she'd been bracing for him to say no. Later that night, he found Lily sitting on her bed, staring at the permission slip. You okay, kiddo? He asked. She looked up. Can Arya come too? Lucas sat down beside her. It's a father-daughter thing, Lily. I know, but... She twisted her hands together. Katie's mom is coming with her and her dad, and I thought, maybe Arya could come with us. So it's like a family thing. Lucas's chest tightened. Did you ask Arya? No, I wanted to ask you first. Why? Lily looked down. Because I don't want her to say no. And if you say no first, then I won't have to hear her say it. The logic was heartbreaking. Lily, look at me. She did. Arya cares about you, a lot. And if you want her there, you should ask her. The worst she can say is no. And even then, it's not because she doesn't want to be there. It's just complicated. Why is everything always complicated with grown-ups? Lucas smiled sadly. Because we're all just making it up as we go. Lily thought about that, then nodded. Okay, I'll ask her. Good. The next morning, Lily cornered Arya in the kitchen before school. Lucas was at the table, pretending to read the paper, but really listening to every word. Arya, Lily said. Yeah, sweetheart? There's this dance at school, and I know you're not my mom, but I was wondering, would you come? With me and Dad? Arya went very still. Lily, you don't have to. I just thought it might be nice if you were there. Arya looked at Lucas. He could see the panic in her eyes, the fear of overstepping, of making promises she couldn't keep. But he also saw something else, the part of her that wanted to say yes. I don't know if that's appropriate. Arya said carefully. Why not? Because Arya knelt down so she was eye level with Lily. Because I'm not your mom, honey, and that's a special thing for you and your dad. But you're special too. Arya's eyes filled with tears. Lily, please? The word hung there, small and desperate. Arya looked at Lucas again, silently asking for help. He gave a small nod. Your call. Arya took a shaky breath. Okay, if your dad's okay with it, I'll come. Lily's face lit up. Really? Really? Lily threw her arms around Arya's neck, and Lucas watched Arya close her eyes and hold on tight. When Lily pulled away and ran to get her backpack, Arya stood up slowly. I hope that was okay, she said to Lucas. It was perfect. I don't know what I'm doing. None of us do. He stood and walked over to her. But you made her happy. That counts for something. Arya nodded, but he could see the weight of it settling on her shoulders. The responsibility, the fear of screwing it up. One day at a time, Lucas said quietly. One day at a time, she echoed. And for now, that was enough. The weeks leading up to the dance crawled by with the kind of slow tension that made Lucas feel like he was waiting for something to break. Arya threw herself into preparing for it like it was some kind of test she had to pass. She took Lily shopping for a dress, spent an hour helping her pick out shoes that matched, practiced braiding her hair in different styles until Lily got tired and wandered off to play. Lucas watched it all from the sidelines, equal parts grateful and worried. He could see the pressure Arya was putting on herself, could see her trying to be perfect because she thought anything less would prove she didn't belong. One night, after Lily had gone to bed, he found Arya in the laundry room folding clothes with mechanical precision. You don't have to do that now, he said. I don't mind. Arya, she kept folding. What? You're allowed to relax. I am relaxed. You're folding towels at 10 o'clock at night. She finally looked at him, and he saw the exhaustion written across her face. I just want everything to be right. For the dance, for Lily. It will be. You don't know that. Lucas stepped into the small room and leaned against the dryer. What are you so afraid of? Arya set down the towel she was holding. That I'm going to mess this up, that I'm going to do something wrong, and Lily's going to realize I'm not who she thinks I am. And who does she think you are? Someone who knows what they're doing, someone who can be… She stopped. I don't know. A mom, I guess. You don't have to be her mom to be important to her. Then what am I supposed to be? Lucas didn't have an answer for that, because the truth was, he didn't know either. Arya had become something indefinable in their lives. Not quite family, not quite hired help, something in between that didn't have a name. You're Arya, he said finally, and that's enough. She looked at him like she wanted to believe it, but couldn't quite get there. Come on, Lucas said, reaching for her hand. Leave the laundry. Let's sit down for 5 minutes. She let him pull her to the living room, and they sat on the couch in the dim light from the kitchen. Arya tucked her legs under her and leaned her head back against the cushions. I haven't been to a school dance since I was a kid, she said. Yeah? My foster mom took me once. I was 11. I wore this awful pink dress, and I didn't know how to dance, and I spent the whole night standing against the wall. Sounds rough. It was, but she tried. That was the thing. She wasn't my mom, but she tried. Arya glanced at him. I think about her sometimes. Wonder if she knew how much that night mattered to me. You should tell her. I don't know where she is. Lost touch years ago. Lucas reached over and took her hand. Then tell Lily. Years from now, when she's looking back, she's going to remember that you showed up, that you tried. That's what matters. Arya squeezed his hand but didn't say anything. They sat there in the quiet, and Lucas let himself imagine what it would be like if this was just normal. If Arya wasn't constantly bracing for everything to fall apart. If they could just be whatever they were without all the fear attached to it, but wishing didn't make it so. The day of the dance arrived cold and bright. Lily was up before dawn, too excited to sleep, bouncing around the house in her pajamas, asking when they were leaving, even though the dance didn't start until 6. Lucas made pancakes to keep her occupied. Arya braided her hair with the kind of careful attention that made Lily sit perfectly still, not wanting to mess it up. By 5:30, they were all dressed, Lucas in the only button-down shirt he owned that didn't have a rip in it, Lily in her new dress with the sparkly belt, Arya in a simple blue sweater and jeans that somehow made her look more put together than anyone had a right to in denim. "You look nice," Lucas said. Arya glanced down at herself. "It's just jeans." Still, she almost smiled. They piled into the truck and drove to the school. The parking lot was already half full, families streaming toward the gym decorated with streamers and balloons. Lucas parked, and Lily practically launched herself out of the back seat. "Slow down, kiddo," Lucas called. "But we're going to be late." "We're 20 minutes early." Lily didn't care. She grabbed Arya's hand and pulled her toward the entrance. Lucas followed, hands in his pockets, trying not to notice the looks they were getting. Inside, the gym had been transformed into something that was probably supposed to look magical, but mostly just looked like a school gym with a lot of decorations. There was a DJ in the corner playing pop songs too loud, tables set up with punch and cookies, a makeshift dance floor where a few brave kids were already moving. Lily spotted her friend Katie and ran over. Lucas and Arya hung back near the refreshment table. "You okay?" Lucas asked. "Yeah, just a lot of people." He followed her gaze and saw what she meant. Parents clustered in groups, talking and laughing, throwing occasional glances their way. Some curious, some less friendly. "We don't have to stay long," Lucas said. "Lily wants to be here. We're staying." There was steel in her voice. Lucas recognized it, the same tone she used when she'd decided something was worth fighting for. The music shifted to something slower, and the DJ announced a father-daughter dance. Lucas looked around for Lily and found her standing near the edge of the dance floor, looking uncertain. He walked over. "Want to dance?" She nodded and took his hand. They moved out onto the floor with the other pairs, dads spinning their daughters, little girls standing on their father's feet, everyone smiling like this was the best night of their lives. Lucas wasn't much of a dancer, but he did his best, swaying awkwardly while Lily giggled. "You're terrible at this, Dad." "I know, but it's okay." "Good." Over Lily's head, Lucas could see Arya standing by the wall, watching them. She looked small and alone, and he wished he could pull her onto the floor with them, make her part of this instead of leaving her on the outside looking in. The song ended, and Lily tugged on his sleeve. "Can Arya dance with us?" she asked. Lucas glanced back at Arya. "I don't know, sweetheart. This is supposed to be a dad thing. But lots of people brought their moms, too. And Katie's whole family is here." "Arya's not... I know she's not my mom, but she's family. You said so." Lucas felt his throat tighten. "Yeah, I did." "So can she dance with us?" He looked at his daughter's hopeful face and couldn't find a reason to say no. "Go ask her." Lily ran over to Arya and grabbed her hand. Lucas couldn't hear what they were saying, but he saw Arya shake her head, saw Lily pull harder, saw the moment Arya's resistance crumbled. They came back to the dance floor together, Lily between them, holding both their hands. The DJ was playing something upbeat now, and they moved in a loose circle, Lily laughing, Arya smiling for real this time. Lucas felt something shift in his chest, a loosening of the knot that had been there for months. This was what family looked like. Messy and imperfect and cobbled together from broken pieces, but real. The song ended and they were walking back to the refreshment table when a voice cut through the noise. "Well, isn't this cozy?" Lucas turned. A woman stood a few feet away, someone he vaguely recognized from town. She had the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Sorry," Lucas said. "Just making an observation. You've got quite the little family unit going here." Arya stiffened beside him. "We're just here for the dance," Lucas said carefully. "Of course. It's just interesting, that's all, given the circumstances." "What circumstances?" The woman's smile widened. "Oh, you know, her history. The whole town knows about it, and here you are parading her around like she belongs." Lucas felt rage flash hot and bright. She does belong. Does she? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like she's playing house with someone else's family. "That's enough," Lucas said, voice low and dangerous. "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. That girl's bad news, Lucas, and if you can't see that, I said that's enough." People were starting to stare. Lucas could feel Lily's hand tighten in his, could see Arya's face going pale. The woman held up her hands. "Fine, but don't say I didn't warn you." She walked away and Lucas stood there, fists clenched, trying to get his breathing under control. "Dad?" Lily's voice was small. What did she mean? "Nothing, sweetheart. She's just being rude." But Lily wasn't buying it. She looked at Arya. "Why did she say you're bad news?" Arya crouched down in front of her. "Because some people like to say mean things, Lily. It doesn't make them true." "But why would she say it?" "Because—" Arya stopped, took a breath. "Because I made some mistakes a long time ago, and people remember. And sometimes they use those mistakes to hurt me. That's not fair." "No, it's not." Lily threw her arms around Arya's neck. "I don't care what she said. You're not bad news. You're the best thing that ever happened to us." Arya's face crumpled. She hugged Lily back hard, and Lucas saw her shoulders shake with the effort of not crying. When they pulled apart, Arya wiped her eyes quickly. "How about we get some punch?" Lily nodded, and they walked toward the refreshment table together. Lucas stayed where he was, watching them, feeling something dangerous and protective burning in his chest. This had to stop. The whispers, the judgment, the constant reminder that Arya wasn't allowed to move on from something that wasn't even her fault. He didn't know how to fix it, but he knew he had to try. So, they left the dance early. Lily protested, but Lucas could see she was tired and Arya was barely holding it together. They drove home in silence, Lily falling asleep in the back seat, Arya staring out the window like she was somewhere far away. Once they got home and Lily was tucked into bed, Lucas found Arya on the porch again. She seemed to gravitate there when things got hard, like the open sky made it easier to breathe. "I'm sorry," Lucas said. "For what?" "For what that woman said. For all of it." "You didn't say it." "No, but I brought you there, put you in that situation." Arya turned to look at him. "Lucas, I chose to go. I knew what I was walking into." "Did you?" "I'm not an idiot. I knew people would talk. I just didn't think—" She stopped. "I didn't think it would hurt this much." "Because of Lily?" "Because of all of it. Because I'm tired of being defined by the worst thing that ever happened to me. Because I want to move on, but nobody will let me." Her voice broke. "I want to be more than the girl who got left, Lucas, but I don't know how." Lucas stepped closer. "You are more. You're so much more." "Then why doesn't anyone else see it?" "Because they're not looking. They're too busy judging to actually see who you are." Arya shook her head. "Maybe they're right. Maybe I don't belong here." "Don't say that." "Why not? It's true. I'm just temporary. That's all I've ever been." "That's not true." "Yes, it is. Every place I've ever been, I've left. Every person I've ever cared about, I've lost. And now," she gestured helplessly, "now I'm here and I care about you and the kids and it scares the hell out of me because I know how this ends." "How does it end?" "With me leaving, or you realizing I'm not worth the trouble, one or the other." Lucas grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. "Listen to me. You are worth it. You're worth every bit of trouble and then some. And I'm not going to wake up one day and decide otherwise." "You can't promise that." "Yes, I can. Because I know what I feel, and I know what you mean to this family." "But what if it's not enough?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "What if I give everything I have and it's still not enough?" Lucas pulled her into a hug and she collapsed against him, all the fight draining out of her. "Then it was never about you," he said into her hair. "It was about them, about their limitations, not yours." Arya cried into his chest, and Lucas held her through it, wishing he could take away every hurt she'd ever carried. Wishing he could make her see herself the way he saw her. But all he could do was hold on and hope it was enough. The next morning, Lucas woke with a plan. It wasn't a great plan. It wasn't even a particularly smart plan. But it was something, and something was better than watching Arya tear herself apart over what other people thought. He waited until Arya was out in the barn, then sat the kids down at the kitchen table. "I need to talk to you both about something," he said. Ethan and Lily exchanged a look. "Is Arya leaving?" Lily asked, voice trembling. "No, but she's thinking about it. Because people keep saying things that hurt her, and I need to know, do you want her to stay?" "Yes," they said in unison. "Even if people talk, even if kids at school say things, Lily nodded fiercely. I don't care what they say. Me neither, Ethan added. She's part of us now, isn't she? Lucas felt his throat tighten. Yeah, buddy, she is. Then we should tell her that. I have told her. Not like this. Not all of us together. Ethan looked at his sister. We should show her she belongs here. Lucas smiled. What did you have in mind? That evening, after dinner, Lucas gathered everyone in the living room. Arya looked suspicious. What's going on? Just sit, Lucas said. She sat, eyebrows raised, while Lucas stood in front of her with the kids flanking him. We wanted to tell you something, Lucas started, and we wanted to do it together, so you know we all mean it. Arya's eyes widened. Lily stepped forward. You're not bad news. You're the best news. And I don't care what anyone says. Your family. Ethan went next. You make things better. The house, the farm, us. And we don't want you to leave. Then Lucas. You walked into our lives when we were falling apart, and you put us back together. Not perfectly, but better than we were. And I don't know what the future looks like, but I know I want you in it. Arya was crying now, hands pressed to her mouth. We know we can't fix what other people say, Lucas continued. And we know it's hard, but we want you to stay. Not because we need you to work the farm, but because you're part of this family, and families don't give up on each other. Arya stood up, shaking, and pulled all three of them into a hug. They stood there in a tight knot, holding on, and for the first time in months, Lucas felt like maybe they were going to be okay. When they finally pulled apart, Arya was smiling through her tears. I don't know what I did to deserve you, she said. You showed up, Lucas said simply. That's all you had to do. The next week was quieter. Arya seemed lighter, like some of the weight had lifted off her shoulders. She still worked hard, still worried, but there was less fear in it now, less waiting for the other shoe to drop. Lucas started to let himself believe this might actually work. Then Lily came home from school with a black eye. Lucas was in the barn when he heard the bus pull up, heard Lily's footsteps running toward the house. He followed and found her in the kitchen, Arya already kneeling in front of her, inspecting the damage. What happened? Lucas demanded. Lily's lip trembled. Katie said Arya's a bad person, that her mom said so, and I told her she was wrong and she pushed me, and I pushed her back and then we both got in trouble. Lucas's vision went red. Arya put a hand on his arm. Lucas, I'm going to talk to that woman. No, you're not. Arya, she's teaching her kid to bully mine, and you going over there angry is only going to make it worse. Arya looked at him, steady and sure. Let it go. I can't. Yes, you can. Because fighting fire with fire just burns everything down, and I'm tired of burning. Lucas stared at her, chest heaving, wanting to argue, but he saw the exhaustion in her eyes, the weariness of carrying this for so long. Fine, he said, but if it happens again, we'll deal with it together. She said it like a promise. Lucas nodded and turned to Lily. You okay, kiddo? My eye hurts. I bet. Let's get some ice on it. While Arya took care of Lily, Lucas stepped outside and called the school, left a message for the principal about the incident. Then he stood on the porch and tried to calm down. He heard the door open behind him. Arya. She's going to be fine, Arya said. Kids are resilient. She shouldn't have to be. No, but she does anyway. Lucas turned to look at her. I hate this. I hate that people are hurting my kids because of me. Because of us. I know. Do you ever think it would be easier if you just left? Arya finished. All the time. The honesty of it hurt. But I'm not going to, she continued. Because I'm tired of running. And because what we have here, it's worth fighting for. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Lucas stepped closer. I don't want you to have to fight for the right to exist here. You should just get to exist. That's not how the world works. It should be. Arya smiled sadly. Yeah, it should be. They stood there in the fading light, the weight of everything pressing down on them, and Lucas realized something. This wasn't going to get easier. People weren't going to stop talking. The town wasn't going to suddenly accept Arya with open arms. But that didn't matter. Because what they were building, this strange, imperfect family, was stronger than gossip, stronger than judgment, stronger than the past that kept trying to drag them back. They just had to keep choosing each other, every single day. "Come on," Lucas said, reaching for her hand. "Let's go check on Lily." Arya took his hand, and together they walked back inside. The black eye faded over the next week, but the damage ran deeper than bruised skin. Lily stopped talking about school, stopped bringing home artwork to hang on the fridge, stopped asking if her friends could come over. She'd come home, do her homework in silence, and disappear into her room. Lucas tried to draw her out, but she'd just shrug and say she was fine. She wasn't fine. None of them were. Ethan had gone quiet too, retreating into that shell Lucas thought they'd finally cracked. He spent most of his time in the treehouse, and when Lucas climbed up to check on him one afternoon, he found his son staring out at the fields with the kind of blankness that scared him. "You okay, bud?" Ethan shrugged. "People at school keep asking about Arya, about why she's living with us, about if you're dating her." Lucas's jaw tightened. "What do you tell them?" "That it's none of their business." "Good answer. But they don't stop asking." Ethan looked at him. "Are you dating her?" Lucas sat down on the plywood floor, legs dangling over the edge. "I don't know what we are, Ethan. We haven't really talked about it. Do you want to be?" The question hung there, honest and simple. "Yeah," Lucas said. "I do, but it's complicated." "Because of Mom?" "Because of a lot of things. Because I don't want to screw this up. Because Arya's still figuring out if she can trust this. Us." He paused. "What about you? How would you feel if Arya and I were together?" Ethan thought about it. "I think I'd be okay with it. She makes you less sad, and she makes the house feel less empty." He picked at a splinter in the wood. "I just don't want her to leave." "Me neither." "Then don't let her." Lucas smiled sadly. "It's not that simple." "Why not?" "Because people were cruel. Because the past had a way of poisoning the present. Because Arya had spent so long believing she wasn't worth keeping that convincing her otherwise felt like trying to hold water in his hands. But he didn't say any of that. "I'm trying, buddy. I'm trying." That night, after the kids were asleep, Lucas found Arya in the kitchen washing dishes that were already clean. He'd noticed she did that when she was anxious, found tasks that didn't need doing, and did them anyway. "Talk to me," he said. "About what?" "About what's going on in your head." Arya set down the plate she'd been scrubbing. "I think I'm making things worse for them. For you." "That's not true." "Yes, it is. Lily's getting in fights, Ethan's getting questions he shouldn't have to answer, and you—" She turned to face him. "You're defending me to the whole town, and it's costing you." "I don't care what it costs." "Well, I do." Her voice cracked. "Because sooner or later, you're going to wake up and realize the price is too high. That I'm not worth all this trouble." Lucas crossed the room and took her hands. They were cold and damp from the dishwater. "Listen to me. You are not the problem. The problem is a bunch of small-minded people who have nothing better to do than judge someone for something that wasn't even her fault." He squeezed her hands. "And if I have to choose between their approval and you, I choose you. Every time." Arya's eyes filled with tears. "You say that now." "I'll say it tomorrow, and the day after, and every day after that until you believe it. Lucas, I love you, Arya." The words fell out before he could stop them, before he could second-guess or worry about timing or any of the 100 reasons he'd been holding them back. Arya stared at him, lips parted, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You don't have to say it back," Lucas said quickly. I needed you to know. I love you. Not because you're convenient or because you help with the kids or because you work hard. I love you because you're because you're brave and stubborn, and you keep showing up even when it's hard. Because when I'm with you, I don't feel like I'm just surviving anymore. I feel like I'm living." Arya was shaking now, and Lucas realized she was crying in earnest, the kind of crying that came from somewhere deep and broken. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "Do what?" "Let someone love me. I've never been good at it. I always mess it up." "Then we'll mess it up together." She let out a wet laugh. "That's not reassuring. It's honest." Arya looked at him for a long moment, and he could see the war happening behind her eyes. The part of her that wanted to run fighting the part that wanted to stay. "I'm scared," she said finally. "So am I. What if this doesn't work? What if it does?" She took a shaky breath. "I've never said it before, not to anyone who wasn't about to leave." Lucas waited. "I love you too," Arya said, voice barely audible. "I think I have for a while, and it terrifies me." Lucas pulled her into his arms and held her while she cried, and when she finally pulled back, eyes red and swollen, he kissed her forehead. "We're going to figure this out," he said. "How? I don't know yet, but we will." The answer came from an unexpected place. 2 days later, Lucas got a call from Principal Morris asking him to come in for a meeting. He drove to the school with a knot in his stomach, expecting another incident report, another problem he didn't know how to solve. Instead, he found Morris sitting in her office with a woman he didn't recognize. Younger, maybe early 30s, with kind eyes and a professional handshake. "Mr. Hayes, this is Sarah Chen. She's a family counselor who works with the school district." Lucas shook her hand warily. "Okay. I asked her to sit in because I think she might be able to help with what's been going on with Lily and Ethan," Morris said. Sarah gestured to the empty chair. "Please sit." Lucas sat, feeling ambushed. "I've been reviewing the recent incidents involving your children," Sarah said. "The fight Ethan got into, Lily's altercation with her classmate, and I've noticed a pattern." "What kind of pattern?" "They're both struggling with instability, with defining their family structure, and they're getting pushback from their peers because that structure doesn't fit the traditional mold." She leaned forward. "Mr. Hayes, I want to be clear. There's nothing wrong with your family, but your children need help processing what it is and what it means." "We talk about it," Lucas said defensively. "I'm sure you do, but talking isn't always enough, especially when they're getting conflicting messages from outside sources." She paused. "I'd like to recommend family counseling, for all of you, including Miss Quinn if she's willing." Lucas felt something shift in his chest. "You think that would help?" "I think it would give you all a space to talk about the hard things, to define what your family looks like without outside judgment, and to give your children tools to handle the questions they're getting." Lucas thought about Lily's black eye, about Ethan sitting alone in the treehouse, about Arya washing clean dishes at midnight because she didn't know what else to do with her fear. "Okay," he said. "We'll try it." Sarah smiled. "Good. I'll have my office reach out to schedule the first session." When Lucas got home and told Arya about the meeting, she looked skeptical. "Counseling?" "Yeah. You think that's going to fix this?" "I think it's worth trying. Don't you?" Arya was quiet for a moment. "I've never done therapy before." "Me neither." "What if they tell me I'm the problem?" "Then they're not a very good therapist." Lucas took her hand. "But I don't think that's what this is about. I think it's about giving us tools, making sense of what we're building." Arya nodded slowly. "Okay, if you think it'll help." "I do." Their first session was 2 weeks later. They drove to Sarah's office, a small converted house on the edge of town with comfortable furniture and neutral colors that were probably supposed to be calming. Lucas felt like he was about to take a test he hadn't studied for. Sarah greeted them warmly and led them to her office. There was a couch big enough for all 4 of them, a few chairs, toys in the corner for younger kids. "So," Sarah said once they were settled, "let's start by talking about why you're here." Lucas and Arya exchanged a glance. The kids sat between them, Lily picking at her shoelaces, Ethan staring at his hands. "We're here because things have been hard," Lucas said finally, "because people are making it hard, and we want to figure out how to make it easier for the kids." "Can you tell me what hard looks like?" Lily spoke up before Lucas could answer. "People say mean things about Arya, and about us for liking her." "What kind of mean things?" "That she's bad, that she doesn't belong with us." Lily's voice got smaller. "That we're not a real family because she's not our real mom." Sarah nodded, writing something down. "And how does that make you feel?" "Mad and sad?" Lily looked at Arya. "Because Arya's not bad. She's good, and she does belong." "Ethan, what about you?" Sarah asked. Ethan shrugged. "I just want people to leave us alone." "That's fair. And Arya, how are you handling all of this?" Arya looked startled at being addressed directly. I'm trying, but it's hard knowing I'm the reason they're going through this. Do you believe that? That you're the reason? Aren't I? I don't think so. I think the reason is other people's inability to accept something that doesn't fit their expectations. Sarah set down her notepad. Here's what I'm hearing. You four have built something together, something that works for you, but it doesn't look like what other people think a family should look like, and that makes them uncomfortable. So they're pushing back. So what do we do? Lucas asked. You decide what you are. You define your family on your terms, and you stop waiting for permission from people who don't get a vote. She looked at each of them in turn. Because right now, you're letting other people's opinions dictate how you feel about yourselves, and that's giving them power they don't deserve. The words settled over them like a blanket. Sarah leaned forward. So let's start there. What are you? If you could define this family without worrying about what anyone else thinks, what would you call it? Lily answered first. A real family. What makes it real? Sarah asked. Because we take care of each other, and we want to be together. Ethan? I don't know what to call it, but it feels right. Like this is what it's supposed to be. Lucas? Lucas looked at Arya. I think we're a family that's been broken and put back together in a different shape. And it's not perfect, but it's ours. Arya? Arya's voice was thick with emotion. I think it's the first place I've ever felt like I could stay. Sarah smiled. Then that's what it is. And anyone who can't see it, that's their limitation, not yours. They went to counseling every week after that. Some sessions were easier than others. Some days Lily talked until she ran out of words. Some days Ethan barely said anything. Some days Lucas and Arya sat there holding hands while Sarah helped them untangle the mess of fear and hope they'd been carrying. But slowly, things started to shift. The kids stopped internalizing the judgment. When someone said something cruel, they didn't take it as truth anymore. They just recognized it for what it was, someone else's problem. Arya stopped waiting for everything to fall apart. She still had bad days, days when the old fears crept back in, but they were fewer and farther between, and when they came, she talked about them instead of running. And Lucas stopped trying to fix everything on his own. He let Arya in, let her be an equal partner instead of someone he had to protect. One evening, about 3 months into therapy, they were all sitting on the porch after dinner. The sun was setting and the air was warm and everything felt almost easy. Can I ask you something? Lily said suddenly. Sure, sweetheart, Lucas said. Are you and Arya going to get married? Lucas nearly choked on his water. Arya went very still beside him. Lily, Ethan hissed. You can't just ask that. Why not? Because I don't know, it's private or something. But I want to know. Lucas glanced at Arya. Her face was unreadable. We haven't really talked about it, Lucas said carefully. But do you want to? Lily, I think you should, Lily continued, undeterred, because you love each other, and we're already a family, so it makes sense. Lucas didn't know what to say. Out of the mouths of babes. Arya cleared her throat. Lily, marriage it's a big thing. It's not something you rush into. But you've been here for almost a year. I know, but Arya looked at Lucas helplessly. What your dad and I have is good, Arya said finally, and we don't need a piece of paper to make it real. But wouldn't it be nice anyway? Despite everything, Lucas smiled. Yeah, kid, it would be nice. Later, after the kids were in bed, Lucas found Arya in the living room staring at nothing. You okay? He asked. Did you mean that? What you said? About marriage being nice? Yeah. Lucas, he sat down beside her. I'm not proposing. Not right now. But yeah, I think about it. About making this official. About you being here permanently, not just as someone who works for me. I haven't worked for you in months. I know, but on paper you do. And maybe that's something we should change. Arya looked at him, and he saw the fear there, but also something else. Something like hope. I'm not ready for that, she said quietly. Not yet, but maybe someday. Someday works for me. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Thank you. For what? For being patient with me. always. But some day came sooner than either of them expected. It was a Saturday in late spring, almost a full year after Arya had first knocked on the barn door. Lucas was in the garden, planting tomatoes, when he heard tires on the gravel driveway. He looked up to see a car he didn't recognize. A man got out, mid-30s, well-dressed, nervous energy radiating off him. Lucas stood, brushing dirt off his hands. "Help you?" The man hesitated. "I'm looking for Arya Quinn." Lucas's blood went cold. "Who's asking?" "My name is Daniel." Of course it was. Lucas crossed his arms. "She's not here. Please, I just need to talk to her." "I don't think that's a good idea." I know I have no right, but Daniel ran a hand through his hair. "I need to apologize. I need to tell her I was wrong." "Little late for that, don't you think?" "I know, but I have to try." Lucas was about to tell him to leave when he heard the barn door open. Arya stepped out, saw Daniel, and froze. The color drained from her face. "Arya," Daniel said. She didn't move, didn't speak. Lucas walked over to her. "You want me to make him leave?" Arya's eyes didn't leave Daniel. "No, I need to hear what he has to say." "You sure?" She nodded. Lucas squeezed her shoulder and stepped back, but he didn't go far. He stayed within earshot, just in case. Daniel took a step closer. "I know this is out of the blue, and I know you have no reason to listen to me, but I need you to know what I did to you was unforgivable." Arya's voice was ice. "You're right, it was. I was a coward. I was scared of commitment, and I took it out on you, and I've regretted it every day since. Congratulations, you have a conscience." "Arya, what do you want, Daniel? Why are you here?" "I wanted to apologize, and to see if maybe we could try again." The audacity of it nearly knocked Lucas over. Arya laughed, sharp and bitter. "You're kidding. I'm not. I've changed, Arya. I've grown up, and I think we could be good together." "We were never good together, Daniel. I was just too naive to see it." "That's not true." "Yes, it is. You didn't love me. You loved the idea of me. And when reality didn't match up, you bailed, in the worst possible way." Arya stepped forward, and Lucas saw steel in her spine. "I spent years thinking I was the problem, that I wasn't enough, that if I'd just been different or better or more, you would have stayed. But you know what I've learned?" "What?" "That the problem was never me. It was you. You were too broken to see what you had, too selfish to appreciate it, and too much of a coward to face it honestly." She crossed her arms. "I've built a life here, Daniel, a real one, with people who actually show up, who choose me every single day. And I'm not giving that up for someone who couldn't even choose me on the day that was supposed to matter most." Daniel looked like he'd been slapped. "I made a mistake." "Yeah, you did, but that's not my problem anymore. That's yours." Arya took a breath. "I forgive you, Daniel. Not because you deserve it, but because I'm tired of carrying what you did to me. But forgiveness doesn't mean I want you back. It just means I'm done letting you define my worth." Daniel stared at her for a long moment, then nodded. "I'm sorry, Arya, for all of it." "I know. Now leave." He got back in his car and drove away. Arya stood there watching until the dust settled, and then her legs gave out. Lucas caught her before she hit the ground. "I've got you," he said. "I told him no," she whispered. "I heard. I chose this. I chose you." "I know." She looked up at him, and there were tears streaming down her face, but she was smiling. "I'm staying, Lucas. For real, this time. Not because I'm scared to leave, but because I want to be here." Lucas felt something break open in his chest, something warm and overwhelming. "Marry me," he said. Arya blinked. "What?" "Marry me. Not someday. Now. Soon. Whenever you're ready. But marry me." "Lucas, I love you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to make this official. And I know it's fast and I know it's crazy, but I don't care. I want you to be my wife." Arya was crying harder now, but she was still smiling. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious. We don't even have a ring." "I'll get you a ring. I'll get you 10 rings. Just say yes." She laughed through her tears. You're insane. Probably. Is that a yes? Arya pulled him down and kissed him, hard and certain and full of every emotion she'd been holding back. Yes, she said against his mouth. Yes. They got married 2 months later. It wasn't a big wedding, just them, the kids, Sarah the counselor, and a handful of people from town who'd proven themselves to be actual friends. They held the ceremony in the backyard under the oak tree where the treehouse stood. Lily was the flower girl. Ethan walked Arya down the aisle because she didn't have anyone else, and he'd offered without being asked. Arya wore a simple white dress. Lucas wore the same button-down shirt from the school dance. And when they said their vows, they didn't promise perfection. They promised to keep showing up, to keep choosing each other, to build something real out of all the broken pieces they'd brought to the table. When the officiant pronounced them married, Lily cheered so loud it startled the chickens. That night, after the guests had left and the kids were asleep, Lucas and Arya sat on the porch together. Married. It felt surreal and right and a little bit terrifying. You think we're crazy? Arya asked. Definitely. Good. I'd hate to be the only one. Lucas pulled her closer. You know this doesn't fix everything, right? People are still going to talk. Things are still going to be hard. I know. And I'm still going to mess up, forget important things, say the wrong thing at the wrong time. I know that too. And you're still going to get scared. Still going to have days where you think about running. Arya looked at him. But I won't, because I'm done running. Yeah? Yeah. She laced her fingers through his. This is home now. You're home. And I'm not giving that up. Lucas kissed her temple. Good. Because I'm not letting you go. They sat there under the stars, two people who'd been broken by life and somehow found each other in the wreckage, who'd built a family out of nothing but stubbornness and hope and the radical decision to keep showing up. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, but it was theirs, and that made it everything. 5 years later, Lucas would stand in that same backyard and watch his daughter, their daughter, born 3 years after the wedding, chase chickens while Lily and Ethan refereed. He'd watch Arya laugh at something stupid the kid said. Her face lit up with the kind of joy he'd once thought impossible. And he'd think about that day she'd knocked on the barn door with a duffel bag and desperate eyes. About all the moments they'd almost lost each other. About how close they'd come to letting fear win. But they hadn't. They'd chosen courage instead, chosen each other. Chosen to believe that broken things could be mended and that families could be built from scratch and that love, real love, was worth fighting for. Not because it was easy, but because it was real. And real, Lucas had learned, was the only thing that mattered. The morning after Daniel left, Lucas woke to find Arya's side of the bed empty. He'd expected it, in a way. Expected her to retreat after everything that had happened yesterday. But when he went downstairs, he found her in the kitchen making breakfast. Not hiding, not running, just cooking pancakes like it was any other Saturday. She looked up when he came in. Morning. Morning. He crossed to her, wrapped his arms around her from behind. You okay? Yeah. She leaned back into him. I really am. You sure that was a lot yesterday? It was, but it also... She flipped a pancake. It closed something. Does that make sense? Yeah. I spent so long thinking he had power over me, over how I saw myself. And yesterday I realized he doesn't, not anymore. She turned in his arms to face him. You want to know what I felt when I saw him? What? Nothing. Not anger, not hurt, not even satisfaction. Just nothing, like he was a stranger. She smiled. And that felt like freedom. Lucas kissed her forehead. I'm proud of you. For what? For standing up to him, for choosing yourself. I chose us, she corrected. There's a difference. The kids thundered down the stairs then, arguing about something inconsequential, and the moment broke. But Lucas held on to it, the knowledge that Arya had finally stopped running from her past and started running toward her future. Their future. Over breakfast, Lily announced she wanted to invite Katie to the farm. I thought you two weren't talking, Lucas said. We made up. She said sorry for what her mom said, and she wants to see the chickens. Lucas glanced at Arya. She gave a small nod. All right, he said. I'll call her parents. Katie came over that afternoon with her mother in tow, the same woman who'd made the cutting remarks at the dance. Lucas met them in the driveway, shoulders squared, ready for a fight. But the woman looked uncomfortable, apologetic. "Mr. Hayes," she said, "I wanted to apologize for what I said at the dance. It was uncalled for." Lucas blinked, caught off guard. "Okay. I was—" She hesitated. "I was judgmental and cruel, and I'm sorry." "Why the change of heart?" "Katie, she came home crying after the fight with Lily, said she'd lost her best friend because I was being mean. And she was right." The woman glanced past him to where Arya stood on the porch with the kids. "I don't know your story, and I don't need to. It's none of my business. I just hope you can forgive me." Lucas didn't know what to say. He looked at Arya, and she gave him another small nod. "Yeah," he said finally. "We can do that." The woman smiled, relieved. "Thank you." Katie and Lily ran off to play, and the woman followed them at a distance. Lucas walked back to the porch where Arya stood watching. "That was unexpected," she said. "Yeah. Think she meant it? Does it matter?" Arya thought about it. "No, I guess it doesn't." They stood there side by side, and Lucas realized something had shifted. They weren't waiting for approval anymore, weren't seeking validation from people who'd already shown their true colors. They were just living, building their life regardless of who was watching. That night, after the kids were in bed, Lucas found Arya on the porch. She was holding something in her hands, a small velvet box. "What's that?" he asked. She opened it. Inside was a simple silver ring with a single small stone. "It was my foster mother's," Arya said quietly. "The one who took me to that dance. She gave it to me before I aged out of the system, said it was something to remember her by." She turned it over in her fingers. "I pawned it years ago when I needed money, but I bought it back last week. I don't know why, I wanted it." Lucas sat down beside her. "She meant a lot to you. She tried, when nobody else did. That meant everything. You ever think about finding her?" "All the time, but I don't even know where to start." "We could hire someone, a private investigator or something." Arya looked at him. "You'd do that?" "If you wanted to find her, yeah." She was quiet for a long moment, then she closed the box and set it aside. "Maybe someday," she said. "Right now I just want to be here, with you, with the kids. I don't want to go looking backward when everything I want is right here." Lucas took her hand. "I meant what I said yesterday, about marrying you." "I know." "And?" Arya smiled. "And I'm thinking about it." "That's not a no." "No, it's not." 2 weeks later, Arya found Lucas in the barn fixing a broken plow blade. She stood in the doorway, backlit by afternoon sun, holding something behind her back. "Can I ask you something?" she said. Lucas set down his wrench. "Sure. Do you have a ring?" He blinked. "What?" "From when you proposed, do you have a ring?" No, I didn't think that far ahead." Arya smiled. "Good. Because I want us to pick one together. If we're doing this, I want it to be ours, not something you guessed at." Lucas's heart kicked up. "Are we doing this?" "Yeah." She walked over to him, pulled her hand from behind her back. She was holding a piece of paper, a marriage license application. "I went to the courthouse today, got the forms. If you're serious, if you really want this, then so do I." Lucas took the paper with shaking hands. "You're sure?" "I'm terrified. But yeah, I'm sure." He pulled her into his arms and kissed her, hard and desperate and full of every promise he'd ever wanted to make. "We should tell the kids," he said when they pulled apart. "Already did." "What'd they say?" Lily cried happy tears. Ethan said finally, "So I think we're good." Lucas laughed, overwhelmed by the sheer rightness of it all. They got married 3 weeks later in the backyard under a sky-threatening rain. The ceremony was simple, just the four of them, a local officiant, and a handful of friends who'd stuck by them when it mattered. Arya wore a pale blue dress she'd found at a thrift store. Lucas wore his cleanest jeans and a shirt Ethan had ironed for him that morning. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, Lily giggled nervously and Ethan elbowed her to be quiet. When Lucas said his vows, promises to show up, to choose Arya every day, to build a life worth living, his voice cracked. When Arya said hers, promises to stop running, to trust him, to believe she was worthy of being loved, she cried. And when they kissed, the sky opened up and rain poured down, soaking everyone and nobody cared. Lily and Ethan ran out into the rain, spinning and laughing, and Lucas and Arya stood there holding each other while water ran down their faces. "We're married," Arya said, like she couldn't quite believe it. "Yeah, we are. I'm Arya Hayes now. How's that feel?" She thought about it. Like coming home. That night, after the kids were asleep and the guests had gone, Lucas and Arya sat on the porch wrapped in blankets, watching the rain fall. The farm was quiet except for the drum of water on the roof and the occasional rumble of distant thunder. "Thank you," Arya said quietly. "For what?" "For not giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to." Lucas pulled her closer. "You never gave me a reason to give up. You just gave me reasons to hold on tighter." She rested her head on his shoulder. "I never thought I'd have this. A family, a home, someone who saw all my broken parts and wanted me anyway." "You're not broken, Arya. You're just human." "Same thing sometimes." "Maybe, but that's not a bad thing." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, and Lucas thought about everything that had led them here, all the near misses and close calls, all the moments they could have walked away and didn't. "You know what I realized?" Arya said. "What?" "Love isn't about being perfect. It's about being seen. All of you, the good, the messy, the scared parts. And being chosen anyway." She looked up at him. "You saw me, Lucas. Really saw me. And you chose me." "Every day," he said. "Every single day." The rain slowed to a drizzle, and somewhere in the distance the clouds started to break apart. Morning would come soon, bringing new challenges and old fears and all the complications of building a life together. But right now, in this moment, everything was exactly as it should be. Lucas Hayes and Arya Hayes, sitting on a porch in the rain, holding on to each other and the life they'd fought so hard to build. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, but it was theirs, and that made it everything. Because in the end, family wasn't about bloodlines or perfect circumstances or meeting some imaginary standard. Family was about showing up, about choosing each other when it would be easier to walk away, about building something real out of all the broken pieces life handed you. Lucas had learned that the hard way. So had Arya. But they'd learned it together. And together, they'd finally found what they'd both been searching for all along, a place to belong.